morning. It's a nice day. It's not raining, so we're gonna take it. And I thought we would go to one of the local farmers markets today. We have the day together today, so we're gonna make the most of it by just going out and about. We're going in the morning to the farmers market, but we're also going to do a little bit of book shopping. I'm on a little bit of a hunt to find a few books because it's been years since I've read any books. Yes, it has actually been years. I'm gonna put the confession out there. Yeah, and I actually picked up The Fellowship of the Ring the other day, and I was shocked that I could actually sit down and enjoy reading it. Shocked, because I'll talk about this later, but like I found it really hard to do things like that, to just like sit down and read and have quiet time. It's like since becoming a mom, I found it really hard to do that kind of stuff. So yes, it has been years since I've done any reading. So because I was really enjoying The Fellowship of the Ring, and by the way, I have a really cool edition. It's signed by Alan Lee. But yeah, because I was enjoying reading The Fellowship of the Ring, which surprised me, I thought, well, why don't I try and reread another one of my favorites, which is going to be really basic, but it's just Pride and Prejudice. It's one of my favorite novels. And yes, I thought I would get back into reading, but in a very light, very casual way. So I'm on a little bit of a mission this morning. Apart from going to the farmer's market to pick up some nice bits for lunch, I also want to go and have a little look for some books, see if I can find a nice edition of Pride and Prejudice. It's one of my favorite books, and I think side by side with that cool signed Fellowship of the Ring, and I have also The Hobbit. I have that one signed as well, so I'll tell you about that later. But yeah, I just thought it'd be like maybe a little bit more motivational for me to pick it up. I don't know. But yeah, anyway, long story short, so I'm on a little bit of a hunt for a pretty edition of Pride and Prejudice, like a really nice edition. And yeah, so we'll see what we can find. But yeah, let's go and get dressed, get changed, and head out, go to the farmer's market and see what books we can find. Okay, first things first, let's pick up something really tasty to eat. My son loves getting the churros. I know it's such a sweet treat, but it's just a little bit of fun. We only do it once in a while. Parts to the market, which is really nice. There's kind of like the produce and farmers market type side with flowers, and then there's kind of like this handmade side of all like local vendors that just make stuff themselves. It's usually all like pretty much made naturally and stuff like that, so it's really nice to have a look around. So then we came across these guys who are doing something really amazing, which is that they actually give away coffee for free to all the people who live kind of out in the middle of nowhere, because obviously out here in like rural England, there's a lot of tiny little villages that are really isolated from anything. So These guys actually drive out there just to give people the chance to have a chat and a coffee with someone for free. So we kind of just bought some just to support them, just to kind of donate some money toward their cause.
We're involved. You are involved.
Oh my god, I love that.
So yeah, so it's here is when we basically on a Saturday morning we try and earn a bit of money. And then the plan is then that next week, then when we go out there, we just give coffee to them. We don't wow. Every coffee we sell today buys another coffee next week.
Oh, bro, well, we'll buy one off you, yeah. Yeah, for sure. We'd love to. So we just got back and my son is napping, so I thought that I would just arrange these peonies. I love just doing simple things like this because it gives me something to do with my hands, and because you're touching like nature and plants, I find it very calming, really. And so I got some peonies because they're some of my favorite flowers. I think they're pretty much tied with hydrangeas. I love hydrangeas. I'm not like the best kind of like garden grower person, so hydrangeas I find are really easy for me to keep and maintain, so that's why I like having them in the garden. Yeah, I just thought I would put these in the bedroom just to give the bedroom a little bit of color and some life. And I also picked up some PJs, which I'll show you in a sec, because ever since I switched all my clothes, like I mentioned in the other video as well, I switched all of my clothes to organic cotton. So I've basically been sleeping with just like old cotton t-shirts, because that's all I had left. I didn't have any like organic cotton pajamas or something like that. And I've been on a little search for them. I'll pick something up in due time, but for now I've got myself something because, like I said, I've just been sleeping in t-shirts and it's not the nicest thing. It is nice to just have a nice set of pajamas that you put on. So I'm really excited about that. Again, it's just something very simple. It's just one PJ set, but I'm very excited about it because, again, as an ultra minimalist with my closet, like I don't go shopping all the time for clothes or anything like that. So yeah, let me show you the PJs. Okay, so these are the PJs that I picked up. Yeah, like I said, I don't have any pajamas, so it was nice to just get one pair of nice pajamas. Like I said, they're not organic cotton, but I'll get there in due time. One thing at a time in motherhood, one thing at a time. Yeah, so I'm excited to put them on later and give you my music recommendations of the week, or what I've been listening to this week. So I'll do that later with my PJs. It's gonna feel so nice to have some nice PJs and not just be wearing like ratty old t-shirts. So yeah, I feel like I've like moved up in motherhood with that one. Yeah, so going back to what I was saying earlier when I was arranging the peonies, just about the motherhood hobbies. So in a sec, we're gonna go out for a little countryside walk, just around here. I don't usually do multiple things in one day because, again, one thing at a time in motherhood. I mean, I like keeping things simple. Anyway, that's just the kind of person I've become more and more as I've grown through motherhood. We are gonna go, so because we went out in the morning, we wouldn't usually go out in the afternoon. That's what I'm trying to say. When you do that, sometimes there's some afternoons where you there's some days where you benefit from, you don't have to go far, you just have to get out a little bit and clear your head. So I feel like I want to do that this afternoon. Going out in a little bit, I'll take you with us, and hopefully we can see some cows. I'm hoping that we come across them again in the footpath. So yeah, we'll head out there in a sec. So, but before that, I just wanted to touch on the motherhood hobbies that I mentioned earlier. So when I'm doing simple things like that, like arranging the flowers, whatever, the fresh peonies, and I'm just putting them, that is so simple. I know that that's so simple and basic. I'm not a florist. I'm not trying to be anything fancy. I'm just trying to do something that makes me happy. I'm just trying to do a simple thing that's gonna help me pass the time in a positive way, because I feel like, I just said this, but as moms, especially what phase of motherhood you're in, it varies, and we're all different, but it's really easy, and even if you're not a mom, it's really easy if you have a busy job and a busy life to feel very overstimulated and overwhelmed in your life. And sorry about the light, by the way, the sun keeps coming in and out of the clouds, so I'm sorry if the light kind of messes around with you. I will try and fix it. Hopefully that's a little more normal. So even if you're not a mom, our lives can feel very busy and hectic, and they can make us feel overwhelmed. But on top of that, if you are a mom, you know what it's like. You feel very overstimulated. yeah, especially if you're breastfeeding and stuff, it's a lot. Like, you're constantly being like grabbed, you're constantly being needed to emotionally regulate your young child who, you know, probably needs emotional regulation, I don't know, 2,000 times a day or something. So it's very easy to feel overwhelmed and overstimulated. So I found in motherhood that it was very hard for me to wind down. So before I gave birth, basically, I actually didn't even have a TV in the house. We had put the TV away. So I was so capable of being in silence, and I loved it so much that I didn't need a TV, I didn't need anything. I would just sit there and just listen to the birds. But you know, motherhood changed that in me. It's not as easy for me now to just sit in stillness. I actually find it, and I'm shocked to say this, but I find it hard. I find it very hard to just sit there in silence, right? And I think a lot of people will relate to that. So because of that, I was defaulting a lot during my son's nap, during the downtime that I had. I was defaulting a lot, not to positive motherhood hobbies, but instead to watching TV, for example, because I could just disconnect, or I thought I was disconnecting. I didn't have to think about anything. It doesn't demand or require anything of me. I can just sit there on the couch, right? I didn't have the emotional or mental capacity or space, really, to, you know, sit there and do anything, really, nothing, you know. Whereas now, and I do think it takes time. I think postpartum is such a journey, and it's so challenging, and it does take time to find yourself, like to find your way back to yourself, which it takes a while for you to kind of feel centered again, maybe to feel calm again. And there's so much going on mentally and emotionally. It's very, very challenging time. So for me, you know, it was not possible to just sit there and like embroider or sit there and color or read. Reading is something that I haven't done for years, because I used to read a lot, and then I kind of like got tired. Like, I felt like I read a whole bunch of stuff and nothing was that interesting to me, so I wasn't really picking up any books. But motherhood changed my approach to reading completely, where like there's no way that I could sit there and read a book. There's no way. Because I would be like, you know, so worried about different stuff that I had to do. And this is the bit that I wanted to touch on, is you kind of almost don't feel like you have downtime as a mom. I feel like, you know, when my son's napping, I'm constantly checking to be like, okay, is he about to wake up? I mean, and for the longest time, for the whole first year, he just napped on me. So there was no way to have hobbies, you know, when your baby is literally napping on you and you can't move, you know. In my opinion, it's very hard, in my experience rather, it's very hard to like have a hobby or do something when you're in that stage of motherhood. So now that he's a little bit older, he sleeps on his own, he sleeps in his own bed, for his nap anyway. I do have that time, and I noticed, because I was so overstimulated and so overwhelmed, all I could cope with was basically just being in freeze mode and having the TV on. And I realized after a while, there was like a little period where I did a little bit of painting and I did a little bit of stuff, and I was like, I feel a lot better for doing that. There were a couple of days, like this was like a few months back, one day where I did yoga instead of vegging out on the couch, and I felt like so energized and so much better to cope with that second half of the day. And I had so much space and patience, and, you know, I was just doing a lot better. So those experiences kind of really taught me that instead of just giving in to that fight or flight freeze mode that we might be in because we're overstimulated, instead of giving into that, if you kind of just push yourself a little bit to do something. But this is the thing, I would suggest don't push yourself too hard. And this is what I've been trying. So I've been trying, like, look, just do something, is what I tell myself. Just maybe color a little bit, or maybe take some time to arrange the flowers. And I feel like I find it hard to do those things because you feel like you're pressed for time. You feel like you don't know when your kid's going to be up. You don't know how long you're going to have to actually like chill. So it feels stressful. It can be, you know, your time isn't your own anymore when you're a mom. So it's very hard to, in my experience so far in this season of motherhood, really devote myself during my free time to like a big hobby where I'm gonna like, okay, I'll get all my watercolors out, like I spoke about in my Rituals of Home video. It's not really something that I feel is compatible for this season of motherhood. You know, you have a lot of demands on you, and it doesn't feel easy to do that kind of thing. So, you know, for me, and hopefully if you feel anything like me, hopefully this helps you, whether you have kids or not. Hopefully this helps you. You don't have to do a whole big thing. even if you just arrange some flowers in a vase like I did. And actually, this is the new thing that I've started pushing myself to do, is I actually picked up a book for the first time in years. Confession. Anyway, I opened it and I read a page and I felt like, I'm not gonna be able to stick with this. Like, I can't do reading anymore. Basically, that's how I felt. Like, my mind just can't shut down enough to just read and to just relax. Like, I just can't do it. So anyway, I picked up the book, started reading, and I was like, oh, I'm enjoying this. And the sun was coming in and it was hitting the pages on the book, and I was like, this feels cool. Like, this feels nice. I think I could do this. So yeah, so I forced myself to read one page. I mean, this sounds so lame coming from me. Like, if you would know me for many years, it sounds crazy for me to say that. Like, but I had to literally force myself to read one page from a book. And eventually, like, and I'm not talking about eventually after a month, I'm talking about eventually after like a day or 2 days, it felt a lot more normal again, and I actually was enjoying what I was doing. And immediately, even that first day, it felt so much more positive. So that's kind of what I wanted to chat to you about today, is like motherhood hobbies, or hobbies if you're overwhelmed and overstimulated and you feel like you don't have time. Number one would be like, push yourself just a little bit to try something. It doesn't even have to be different, but just to maybe try something that you used to do before, like me with reading, or to try something maybe new but not challenging, just like a little bit of coloring. It doesn't have to be a big thing, but just try something. Push yourself just a little bit out of that comfort zone and get out of that fight or flight freeze mode, which I think there's like a fight or freeze mode, because fight and flight, I know it's called fight or flight, right? But like, fight and flight are both like active things. You're either fighting away, like you're fighting, or you're like flight, like you're running away, right? Fight or flight. But there is an aspect of being overstimulated and overwhelmed, which is just freeze. Like, you do just freeze. I certainly do. When I'm overstimulated and it's just been too much for me, I do freeze, which is what was going on for months. And so that's why I'm suggesting, like, if any of this is familiar to you, any of this, like, you're like, oh, I do relate to that a little bit or a lot, hopefully this chat has helped you a little bit with like trying something in motherhood, like picking up a few hobbies. They don't have to, hobbies even sounds like too strong of a word for like what I'm suggesting, but just like doing stuff. Do stuff. Just try doing stuff instead of just sitting there, but don't like, try not to do cleaning or work. And I do that a lot. And again, this is why I'm trying to say this. I'm trying to talk about this because, like, I noticed when I don't do cleaning, when I don't do work, when I don't just sit there and watch TV, but instead I do something positive, as simple as coloring, as simple as arranging some flowers in a vase, because that's what makes me personally happy. Reading a couple of pages. None of these things require a lot of effort or a lot of time. But surprisingly, they have a really good positive payoff for you. So I just wanted to chat about that today, and I hope that that helps you. And let's go on our walk. Let's go see if we can see some cows. Okay, we are back home and I have got the world's best PJs on, let me just say. Yeah, that was such a nice walk. I was so happy that we saw the cows. Like, it's really lucky to see them. The cows are not like always there. I guess they must move them from field to take care of the field. Yeah, sorry that I said field so many times. Yeah, so I won't talk your ear off now because I already did that earlier in the video. Hopefully you enjoyed what I actually talked about and it was helpful. Anyway, it's gonna be time for bed soon. I do the bedtime on my own all the time, but sometimes Lee, which is like my partner, he can do like the bath, and that gives me a little bit of time where I can, like, nowadays I read. I actually sit here and I read, and it's been life-changing. Let me just tell you, it's been life-changing. But that's not always possible because usually he's working until like 7:30 p.m, which means like it's just like I do everything all day long basically. But yeah, anyway, what I'm listening to this week. So, last week was Kelly Jones. Let me just say, I'm still obsessed. I still have that album on repeat, but this week it has changed a little bit. There's a new edition. Watch out, let's go crazy. It's Alpha Blondie. So I actually have the CD. So I own the CD, but I don't have it with me because I cannot find it. I don't know where it is. So I've been listening to it on Spotify, like on Bluetooth, which kind of sucks because I love putting the album into like the boombox thing that I have downstairs, especially because, like, as you know, like my son loves doing that too because I'm trying to teach him about that. So I don't love having had to have put it on through my phone, because I can see that he's watching what I'm doing and he's watching me use like a phone instead of the boombox. So I haven't loved that, but it's such a good album. So it's the one called Live in Paris, Zenith or something like that. I don't know, like I'll just put the album here so you can see it and I don't try and say it again because that was embarrassing for the both of us. But yeah, so it's that album. So my so the CD that I have is like my dad's. A lot of the CDs that I have are my dad's CDs. And the reason that I mentioned that it's my dad's is because I grew up listening to it and it was one of my favorite albums. It is one of my favorite albums. And yeah, so this one, sometimes it's like summer vibes. I just feel like putting on reggae, but I'm not the biggest reggae fan. Like I'm not the biggest reggae fan. I'm really not. But yeah, I love this Alpha Blondie CD. It's just like, it's so beautiful. It's live, which is really cool because it feels really like dynamic and fun. Sometimes, like, this is probably not going to sound very nice if you do like reggae, but sometimes I feel like reggae can be a little bit like dull for the kind of music that I like. I don't mean that in a rude way. I just mean like when the reggae is live, I feel like there's so much going on. There's the vocals, the drummers doing something really interesting and adding in different hits, and like the background vocals is what I mean by vocals. And there's just like so much more going on. There's like live percussion and there's a lot of like depth to the song. But so for example, I have also, well, my dad has the album Bob Marley Babylon by Bus, that one. So that one is also live and I love that one. Whereas if I were to put Bob Marley songs not live, they don't hit the same. I don't know if that happens to anybody else. I don't know if it's just me. I don't know if basically, like, I don't actually like reggae, but I like it when it's live. So I don't know. But this Alpha Blondie album, if you've never listened to it, check it out because, oh my gosh, it's so good. Like, so yeah, I've been totally sitting with that all week this week, really. I've really been enjoying it. What's really cool as well is because he sings in French, so like sometimes I try and sing in French, like, to George. Like, I don't speak fluently or anything like that, but obviously because I speak fluent Spanish, French has always been something that I've done reading in. So I've read like Baudelaire's Flowers of Evil. I used to have a book, which I regret getting rid of because apparently you can't find this edition anymore, but it's the French text on the left and then the English text on the right. But I think there's a new copy of that now, like a new edition of that, but it's nowhere near as good, or like they've changed some of the French stuff in it. Anyway, blah blah blah, I'm rambling. So I've always kind of done like a little bit of French reading, and I've always like tried to learn like songs in French. I don't know why, I just like it. So another cool thing is like, because Alpha Blondie sings in French, I'm saying that now, this is gonna sound so ignorant, but I've just realized Alpha Blondie is his name. Like, it's not the name of the band, is it? Like, Alpha Blondie sings in French, and you're probably like, that's the name of the band? Like, you don't even know what you're talking about. So I'm gonna leave this in there. Like, I don't even care. Like, I'm gonna be honest. I'm sure that that's his name. But yeah, anyway, he sings in French and in an African dialect sometimes, and in English. So it's really nice. Like, it's an experience. I love putting it on, and like I said, it's live, so you feel like you're having a bit of like a gig experience, and it's just cool. It's really fun. So I'm gonna end this here because it is a very long, and I have taken up enough of your time. I hope you have a lovely, wonderful, beautiful weekend and week ahead. And yeah, thank you so much for being here and for watching, and I hope that you found it useful, and I hope you've enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.